Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
Two counts. One, soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution.
This is Jeffrey Epstein, man who lived in the shadows of power, surrounded by billionaires, politicians, celebrities, and even people most of us will never meet in our lifetime. He owned private jets, luxury mansions, and even a private island. But behind all that wealth, there were accusations so disturbing that when the world finally demanded answers, Epstein was arrested. And then, before he could face a trial, he was found dead inside his prison cell. The official explanation was suicide, but millions of people around the world still believe the story doesn't add up. So in this video, I'm going to explain who Jeffrey Epstein was, how he became rich, what crimes he was accused of, who he was connected to, and why the world still talks about him today. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. At first, his life looked normal. He wasn't born rich, he wasn't famous. But later, Epstein somehow managed to enter a world that most people never see. A world of billionaires, private jets, luxury mansions, elite parties, and powerful connections. The weird thing is, nobody really understands exactly how Epstein became so rich. Some people say he worked in finance. Others believe he helped rich people manage money. But the truth is, there is no clear record of Epstein becoming a billionaire in a normal way. And that mystery is one of the reasons people still talk about him today. How did Epstein become so powerful? In 1970 and 1980, Epstein worked in education and then in finance. He managed to get close to very wealthy people, and eventually he started living like a king. He owned luxury homes in New York, Florida, Paris, New Mexico, and a private island in the Caribbean. Yes, a private island. Epstein also had a private jet, which later became known online as the infamous Lolita Express. Now at this point, Epstein was not a celebrity, but he was surrounded by celebrities. He was seen with business leaders, politicians, famous actors, and even royalty. And this is where the story gets darker, because Epstein wasn't just rich, he was collecting connections. And those connections gave him power. The question is, how did Epstein become so rich?
Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact...
Why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
Epstein wasn't known for owning a big company like Amazon or Tesla. He didn't create a product. He didn't build an empire. According to multiple reports, Epstein's story starts in a very unusual way. Before Wall Street, Epstein actually worked as a teacher in an elite private school. But it is believed he got the job even though he didn't have proper qualifications. Some sources claim Epstein faked his academic background, which helped him to get accepted into a world where most people would never even get a chance. Eventually, Epstein was dismissed from that job because of poor performance. And this is where his real rise begins. Because after leaving teaching, Epstein somehow managed to enter the world of Wall Street. He started working for a major investment bank called Bear Stearns. And once again, reports suggest Epstein didn't have the university degree that most people would need to actually work in that position. But even though he didn't have the perfect record, Epstein was something else. He was a natural manipulator, a strong salesman, a man who knew exactly what to say to wealthy people. And according to some accounts, when questions came up about his background, Epstein reportedly explained that he simply wanted the opportunity, that he believed he would succeed even without a degree. And for a while, it worked. Epstein made money, he built connections, and he started meeting influential clients. But after a few years, Epstein was fired. Some reports claim it involved suspicious paperwork and issues related to his expense accounts. And normally, someone would disappear after that. But Epstein didn't, because this is where he did something even more intense and dangerous. He found his way into the circle of wealthy but shady businessmen. Some reports suggest Epstein worked with people who were running illegal operations, including manipulation of money and investments. And this is where Epstein made his first serious fortune. What's interesting is Epstein somehow avoided prison. And some believe he did it the way he always did everything, through manipulation, through charm, through convincing powerful people to protect him. And that pattern continued for years. Later, Epstein became extremely close to one man in particular, Les Wexner, the billionaire behind Victoria's Secret. And this relationship was one of the biggest turning points in Epstein's life, because Wexner gave Epstein massive financial access, and according to reports, Epstein managed and controlled huge amounts of Wexner's wealth. In fact, between 1990 and the 2000s, Epstein was linked to overseeing the sale of over $1 billion worth of stock connected to Wexner's business world. This is where Epstein's lifestyle exploded. This is where he became truly untouchable. And there were also claims that Epstein used his association with Victoria's Secret as a way to meet women and lure young girls into his circle, pretending he had connections in the modeling world. And if you look at Epstein's story, you start to realize something important. His wealth didn't come from hard work like most people. It came from access, from networking, from manipulating the rich, and possibly from taking advantage of them. Because Epstein didn't just build money, he built power. And with that power, he built a lifestyle that later became the center of one of the darkest scandals in modern history. So now let's talk about what he actually was accused of. Over time, many young girls started coming forward with shocking accusations. They say Epstein was involved in trafficking and abuse of minors. Many victims claimed that Epstein would pay them money, invite them to his mansion, and use other girls to recruit more girls. Some girls were reportedly as young as 14, and the accusations didn't stop there. Many victims said Epstein wasn't working alone. They claimed he had people around him, helping him. One of the most important names connected to him was a woman called Ghislaine Maxwell. She was seen as Epstein's closest partner, and many victims accused her of helping recruit girls and bring them into Epstein's world. This wasn't just one crime. This was described as organized system, a system that lasted for years. And Epstein continued living freely, like nothing was happening, which made people ask the big question: how was he allowed to get away with it for so long? Epstein's first arrest. In 2005, police in Florida started investigating Epstein, and in 2008, Epstein was finally charged. But that is where the story became one of the most controversial in American history. Instead of getting a serious punishment, Epstein got what many people called a sweetheart deal. He pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, and instead of spending years locked up, he served a sentence where he was allowed to leave jail for work during the day. Basically, he had a punishment that looked more like a vacation compared to what people expected. This shocked the public, because many people believed if a normal person committed those crimes, they would spend decades in prison. So people started asking again, who was protecting Epstein and why? The 2019 arrest. For years, Epstein stayed quiet. He stayed rich. He stayed connected. He stayed powerful. But in 2019, everything changed. Epstein was arrested again. This time, the charges were serious. He was charged with trafficking and conspiracy. The media exploded. The story went worldwide. Everyone wanted to know one thing: who he worked with, what he knew, and who might be exposed next. And in this moment, Epstein became the most dangerous man alive. And not because he was powerful, but because he had information. And many people believed that if Epstein went to trial, it could destroy the reputation of very powerful people. Now, let's be clear. Just because someone was seen with Epstein does not automatically mean they were involved in crimes. Epstein was also known for being around famous people. He attended events. He donated money. He created friendships with elites. But the problem is, Epstein wasn't a normal billionaire. He was a man accused of heinous crimes connected with minors. So when his name became public, many people began to look at the famous people around him and ask, why were they spending time with him? Why were they visiting his homes? Why are they on his plane? And even today, people still ask these questions. And actually, why were they? Epstein's connections included famous politicians, powerful businessmen, celebrities, and even links to royalty. And this is why the case became much bigger than just Epstein. Because Epstein looked like the center of something much larger, a dark network of power. And then, before Epstein could go to trial, the most unbelievable thing happened. In August 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling was suicide, but immediately, millions of people did not believe it. The reason, you ask? Well, because Epstein was under suicide watch, and then suddenly he wasn't. There were reports that guards were asleep, cameras were not working properly, and mistakes happened that should never ever happen in a high security prison. This created one of the biggest conspiracy theories in modern history. People believed Epstein did not kill himself. They believed he was silenced. Because if Epstein went to court, he could have revealed way too much. And after his death, one phrase became famous online. Epstein didn't kill himself. It became a global meme. But behind the meme was something serious. People did not trust the system. After Epstein's death, the investigation continued, and eventually, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. She was later found guilty of helping Epstein recruit and traffic young girls. She was sentenced to prison. This proved that Epstein's crimes were not just the rumors. They were real, and they involved more than one person. But still, many people believe the story is incomplete, because Epstein was connected to too many powerful people, and yet, not many of them faced punishment. Why the Epstein story still matters today? So the big question is, why does the Epstein case still matters today? Because it showed the world something scary, that money and power can protect people for years. The victims can be ignored, and sometimes justice comes too late. Epstein died before he could fully face trial, and because of that, many questions will probably never be answered, and that is why his name still remains one of the darkest and the most disturbing stories of modern history. So now, I want to ask you one question. Do you believe Jeffrey Epstein acted alone? Or do you believe there are still people connected to him that we don't know about? And do you think the full truth will ever be revealed? Let me know your opinions down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.